We are live. Wednesday, April the 13th. Welcome, everybody. I am a few minutes late here. I'm not getting started right at 12:15 today. A little bit of a delay, but I'm here. Happy Wednesday is live Wednesday webinar day, okay? Part of my women's wellness and hormone balancing series. Most Wednesdays I go online and stream live into a few different places today. To share with you all of the goods on how you can thrive through approaching and being in perimenopause and beyond. So today I have a huge topic for you, everybody, and I've got my screen up here. So today I'm going to be talking about the belly fat hormonal connection. So as always, if you are watching this with me live on Facebook or on the YouTube channel, feel free to drop the word live in the comments below. Or if you're watching this on the replay, as most of you do, or even on the website, feel free to comment replay and share any comments, insights, aha moments, or questions you have, because I'll look at those questions and I'll get back to you with an answer, I promise. So welcome. My name is Julie Hodge. I am happy to be here as always. I love sharing information. I love supporting women to be their best, healthiest selves and to find that hormone balance in perimenopause rather than needing to feel like they're suffering through it. It doesn't need to be that way. So today I am going to talk about, like I said, cortisol, insulin, sleep, two other hormones in particular, and the belly fat connection. So let me just say that I am a certified personal trainer, a certified nutrition coach, and an advanced hormone-based fitness specialist. I've been practicing in my own business for 31 years now, and I've helped literally hundreds of women, whether it's been personal training or nutrition planning or prepping them for competitions, or in the last few years, focusing on their hormone balanced, optimized health through natural lifestyle changes and choices. So dive in. If you have a pen or you want to take some notes, I recommend that you do that now. And I'm just going to make my screen a little bigger so that I can see my notes. And I apologize. I've got, grab my notes here. Some of the slides are done. Some aren't. So if you ever want a copy of any of this information, reach out, let me know. So the first thing I want to ask today is a question. So I want to know, is what used to work for you no longer working? This is generally, not always, but 90% of the time, maybe more, the biggest question. And if the answer is yes, I find with most women who are starting to experience some hormonal imbalances and they realize that what used to work is no longer working, because it's true. Like I've said before, what we used to do in our 20s, what we used to do in our 30s no longer works the same. All right. So it's time to change things up. And it could be that we have been doing things, maybe we could have been doing things a little better, but we never really noticed in our 20s and 30s. You notice when you hit perimenopause most of the time. Okay. So it's not more coffee. It's not more energy drinks. It's not more stimulants that you need to get you through the day. Okay. It's this, and I'm going to share it all. So bear with me. I have a lot of information to get through. If you've been finding you have to put on bigger pants, that you are experiencing a lot of frustration with midsection weight gain, okay, also called perimenopause pooch or menobelly, it's not your imagination. It's not that you've been doing anything wrong necessarily. This is a very real thing. I'm here to share the truth about what works and why it's happening and what you can do about it without needing to revert to fad diets, to overnight pill promises, or anything like that. Put your money back in your wallet right now, okay? Until you hear me out. So you're not alone with this. For many women, it feels like this newfound and this really stubborn weight isn't going to go anywhere, no matter what we do, no matter how much diet, no matter how much exercise, no matter how many salads we eat, okay? It's not budging. So again, because what used to work for us in our 20s and 30s, it no longer works. That approach needs to change up a little bit. So again, if you have a pen, take some notes. You might have some aha moments. If you have questions, please drop them in the comments. I'm trying to see whether or not my live stream is picking up here in the group, and I don't see it. So hopefully I am streaming live somewhere. Otherwise, I will post the recording. So in today's training, I'm going to review eye-opening information that you might not have been aware of, okay, up until now, how sleep, stress, even food, and even how we exercise can dramatically impact not only our health, but our hormones. This is information that I have spoken about in my How to Lose Belly Fat series, in my Dangerous Lie series. You can find them all on my website. but I want to talk about them a little bit more now because it's always time to refresh. Okay. You know, what is that stat that we have to hear something a certain amount of times before it really starts to make sense to us? So by the end of this training, I hope that you will have additional ways and additional things that you can try to implement and be conscious of to try to help you reduce things like hot flashes, to bring you about into more insulin sensitivity versus insulin resistance, help reduce your cardiovascular disease markers, and so much more. All right, so let's move on. Lots of fun info. So I want to start by telling you a story. This is not about me. This is about Bonnie, okay? So Bonnie, she had a high stress life, trying to navigate work, her kids, and her own time to work out, and her own time to try and make healthy food choices. Her to-do list was super duper long. So generally, Bonnie spent her evenings, once the kids were in bed or once everything else was taken care of, getting as much done as she could. Can anyone relate to this? Raise your hand. Say, yes, I relate. If you've been there, or maybe you are there, if you're a mom, okay, with kids right now, trying to juggle it all, raise your hand. So she's often scrolling social media, getting to bed really late because she's trying to pack everything in to the end of the day. Okay. Not only that, but her day has already been a go, go, go roller coaster. So often she's sneaking treats. She's sneaking maybe less than healthy, nutritious snacks in between it all, possibly late in the day. The stress adds up. She hasn't made the time to eat healthy through the day. So at the end of the day, she's starving, famished. And little does she know, she's fighting against some hormone physiology happening in the background. So, of course, very often at night, you're exhausted. Okay, you're tired. You're not getting good sleep maybe to begin with. The willpower kind of goes out the window. She's grabbing all the carbs. Okay, and that's what she would do. She'd open up the cupboard door and eat all the carbs. It was typically nothing that needed to be prepared. It was quick grab and go. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Also, typically not in bed until at least 11 p.m. Okay, and even again, laying in bed, scrolling through social media, watching a TV show, continuing to stay stimulated right up until bedtime. All right. And of course, Bonnie has to get up early for work because she has to do it all over again the next day. So when she does feel tired, let me just tell you that Bonnie used to push through to get that second wind. Do you know what I'm talking about? You're pushing through. You start feeling tired, maybe 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, but you still have so much to do. You push through it, wanting that elusive second wind. Okay. And then you can like stay up till 2. So she was pushing through that second wind so she could stay up later and get more done, or even just have more time to scroll Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Okay. Bonnie was the perfect example of hormone imbalance due to lack of restful and lack of consistent sleep. So let's fast forward a little bit, shall we? Let us fast forward. Here we go, if I can. So here's what Bonnie did, and I'll share the second end of a story because it changed. So she decided to implement a sleep plan, and she committed to following it for at least 2 weeks, okay? More than that, it turned into more of a habit, but she didn't ignore the sleepy feeling she got, and she didn't push through it. Instead, I coached Bonnie that if she was starting to get tired, to listen to that. That's her body talking to her. I said, Bonnie, listen to that. I don't want you to push through that. When you feel that tiredness urge, your eyes get sleepy, you're yawning, go to bed. Everything can wait. Write down what you need to do. Dump it on a piece of paper before you go to bed, but go to bed. So now, okay, she shuts off her devices at least 30 minutes before bedtime. And she sets a regular time to be in bed with no screens and no stimulation, no movies every single night, okay? This has taken practice. She has done it over and over again and turned it into a lifestyle habit. She also engaged her family to support her in this. Okay, she explained why. If you want mom to be happy and healthy, if you want me around, please understand I need to do this to support my hormones, to support my health, not just now, but 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So her family helped her, supported her, bought into it. She didn't know if they would, but she had to try. So after a few nights of earlier bedtimes and no devices, Bonnie started to realize something really, really cool. She started to realize, this is interesting, she was not having the crazy carb cravings that she used to have later in the day. Okay. She would get hungry, but she would not feel so out of control. Okay. And so at the whim of that cupboard anymore, she was in control of making better, more healthful choices instead of feeling and saying both screw it. She found that the more she was staying on track, the more she committed to that sleep schedule, the more rest she got, The more she tuned into that tired quality, okay, at the end of the day and didn't push through it, the better sleep she got. Okay, so she turned that 30 minutes into 60 minutes of brain downtime before bed ultimately. And she caught up on some reading too. Okay, no screen time. So Bonnie's story is powerful because I know that many women that I've helped, that I will help, maybe even some of you watching this can relate to Bonnie. Okay, you can relate to staying up late. You can relate to wanting to fit it all in, to not really shutting down ever, to not feeling rested, to having those cravings. Okay, so Bonnie is now experiencing more hormonal balance because of her better sleep. Now, here are 3 other things that happen. So I want to break these down, and I'm going to go into more detail in these later. Leptin and ghrelin response improved. So her hunger and her fullness hormones, leptin and ghrelin respectively, were not as awry as they were, and they started to do the job they were meant to be. One is to tell you you're hungry. One is to tell you you're full. She started to balance those out, okay? Cortisol response improved. She started supporting her more natural cortisol response by allowing herself to get the sleep, going to bed early, and getting those higher cortisol levels in the morning and making the most of it. Her craving response changed. Okay, so those cravings meant she was making poorer choices, and thus she was creating a worse insulin resistance state. The belly fat was increasing, the insulin resistance was increasing, didn't know what to do with all that extra sugar breakdown, all that stuff happening. It was creating a bigger waistband, okay? As such, she started getting more rest, okay, going to bed earlier, sticking with routine, and she started to lower her stress and her inflammation too. Because by not reaching for all those quick grab and go carb-loaded snacks, sugar-loaded snacks at the end of the day, late at night in her cupboard, she was reducing the inflammation from added sugar and processed foods. Okay, so win-win-win for Bonnie. Now I use the example of Bonnie, okay, to illustrate this very, very key point. And I've seen posts lately about how to lose belly fat. I thought this is a very appropriate time to bring this back. We must always first deal with any and all underlying hormonal balance driving our weight gain so that our body can finally let go of the weight and we can look and feel the way we want. We want to feel that we thrive in our body, that we are at home in our body, that we are comfortable in our body. It doesn't matter if you have a few extra pounds. You know, who doesn't have a few extra pounds? That does not define your health. It is that visceral fat, that fat that responds to nothing or seems not to respond to anything because you have not yet responded or identified the underlying hormonal balances driving the weight gain. And this is why I say, ladies, put your money back in your wallet. Stop spending money on fad diets, on salad diets, on pills and shakes until you have first tried to balance the hormonal imbalance. Okay, because number one, hormones drive the show, the calories don't. So many people are tracking their calories and not realizing that doesn't matter until we can get those hormones under control. Okay, so they're going to run and steer the ship, so to speak. So let's move on. So of course, belly fat's hormonal connection, it's there, it's big, more and more information from people like me sharing with people like you and all the women who need to know this. So let's talk food, because the kind of food we eat can support more hormonal balance coupled with reducing many other stressors much more significantly, okay? So if you're dealing with belly fat or peri-pooch or menobelly, whatever you want to call it, this stubborn weight also often shows up around the midsection as we're in perimenopause. This is that normal, natural time of life where our hormones are changing. This is a journey from when we used to have our menstrual cycle to when we are not one day, okay? So this is a normal journey for women. Does it mean we have to suffer through it? Heck, no, absolutely not. I'm here to help you understand why this is happening, and more important, help you understand how you can begin to lose that belly fat, to lean out through your body, to trim down the tummy. Maybe it'll never look the way it did in your 20s and 30s. That is the grace of accepting who you are and where you are through the journey of life. But can you feel better from the inside out? Absolutely. And can you reduce the visceral fat? Absolutely. Is there a solution? Yes, there are. So chronic stress feeds fat. When we talk about balancing, we have to identify that. Chronic stress feeds fat. More and more women are chronically stressed. We're worried about money, about the cost of this, the cost of that, about what the world is going to be like for our children. We're worried about, will we have more lockdowns? We're worried about getting sick. We're worried about, why are we sick? There are so many things to worry about if you're a parent, not even if you're not a parent, okay? So chronic stress is literally fueling the epidemic of belly fat weight gain. And it's keeping women really, really, really pinned down and struggling to do anything about it. So perimenopause and menopause are stages of a woman's journey of a state of flux, so to speak, with hormone levels. Estrogen can be dropping, but a lot of the time in perimenopause, it's actually spiking. In this state of imbalance, hormonal and metabolic imbalances that were once maybe just kind of simmering invisibly on the back burner, okay, 20s and 30s, they start making themselves known. I like to think it's like a magnifying glass being put in front of every single thing you're doing and not doing, okay? One of estrogen's actions is to deposit fat onto the hips. As those levels decline, this can signal, as the estrogen levels decline, this signal, can weaken, and the fat deposition, the fat deposits, okay, can shift to your abdomen, resulting in the expanding waistline. Sometimes this happens without weight gain. It's more just about body fat distribution. You may not gain anything new, but where things are changes, okay? So maybe you were pear-shaped as a younger woman, okay? Like this, and then like this. And maybe as you get a little older, you're beginning to resemble more of the apple shape as you age. Okay, these are really important things to note. Again, chronic stress feeds belly fat. Some of the underlying triggers for this weight shift can be out of our control, okay? But other aspects are very much within our control. So one factor that we can influence is stress. Can we take it away completely? Maybe not, but we can influence it for a large part. Belly fat, this may be an aha moment, contains receptors for cortisol, our body's main stress hormone. We talk a lot about cortisol. When we're stressed, our adrenals release cortisol, and this stimulates these belly fat receptors. So the more cortisol that is released, okay, the more belly fat accumulation and the more stimulation of those belly fat receptors, okay? So it's like a vicious cycle. So somewhere we've got to cut that stress. We've got to get that cortisol under control. Constantly feeling stressed out may seem like the norm. Hey, everyone is, why not me? But that does not mean it's healthy. And stress, STRESS, it's more than 4 letters, but it's kind of almost like a 4-letter word these days. So let's reduce the stress and learn what we can do about that, okay? So to tame those cortisol levels, we literally need to do whatever works for us to slow down, to de-stress, to unplug, to delegate, big one, to meditate, stretch, to relax, all right? And sometimes a really good a high-quality adrenal supplement may also help to balance those cortisol levels. And on my website, I've got just an FYI, I've just put together a huge Your Ultimate Health pack of guides. And one of those packs is a guide to adaptogens, where it talks about ashwagandha and other adaptogenic substances that can really, really help support a woman and even men through their own hormone changes. Okay. So now I wanted to talk about stress a little bit more, that stress can also be physical and it can cause inflammation. Okay. So stress can not only be mental or emotional or social, it can also be physical. It can be caused by inflammation in the body, which creates physical stress, okay? By illness, disease, all those things. So chronic inflammation alone can make it hard to lose added weight, because chronic inflammation in your body, okay, and particularly as it relates to our gut health, inhibits some enzymes that normally break down fats in the body. So get some help to optimize your health and tackle inflammation if you need to. Take care of your gut imbalances and other inflammatory conditions like thyroid disease, like Hashimoto's, okay? Some other autoimmune disorders. Slowing of your metabolism, weight gain, and trouble losing it commonly go with low thyroid function. However, a few months back, I did another training webinar where I talked about the pyramid and the entry level, which is cortisol. And from there, then it's insulin, and then it's this, and then it's that. Thyroid is not the prime mover most of the time. All these other steps need to be taken first to get to the point where that is affected. All right. So if you're in doubt, talk to your naturopath or a really good functional medicine doctor or your physician who understands hormones in your endocrine system. to get a deeper look at what your hormones are doing. Okay. Blood tests alone may tell you you're normal. If 90% of women go through perimenopause and feel like crap, that is not normal, but that is what the blood tests are mostly telling you is normal. Go for a test that gives you a deeper dive into your hormones. Dutch tests, other sorts of tests that will give you a closer look. Okay. So some of these issues may not produce symptoms until you hit menopause. So it is a really good idea for if you're hitting that midlife, if you're approaching that 40 zone, or if you're feeling some of these hormone changes already start to happen and what used to work isn't working anymore, get things checked, including your thyroid antibodies. I would get things like cortisol checked, estrogen, all that stuff, your DHEAs, all of that. And especially if you have a family history of thyroid problems. Okay. So some really key takeaways here to be aware of. So now 4 big things I'm going to leave you with before I move on. So in that last couple slides, I said that we need to look at ways to reduce stress. It is literally a non-negotiable if you want optimal health, if you want to shed the belly fat, if you want to balance your hormones. If you don't want to do any of those things, you can ignore this part. But if you want those, restore before more and dump stress. So I want you to think, schedule your downtime. Yes, you schedule everything else, schedule your downtime. Okay. Carve the time in for you. Maybe it means you're laying on the floor with your feet up a wall for 15 minutes, deep breathing. That is dumping stress time for you. That is going to do so much more for your overall health than you possibly can imagine by getting some of those good hormones and good feelings going on in your body and helping to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, along with so many other things. So schedule downtime. All right. Number 2, get the right time, right intensity, and right time of exercise. This is key. I just talked briefly about cortisol. I'll talk about it a bit more. But if you're always go, 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 you are constantly increasing your cortisol levels. Okay. They're not going down. Maybe they're rising until the point where if you're fully pooched, they might completely go down altogether. But in the meantime, try not to do things that are going to spike your cortisol later in the day. So no high intensity late day. If you are in that position where you're trying to lose belly fat and where what used to work no longer works, good rule of thumb, schedule downtime, get the right time, right intensity, and right type of exercise. Set a sleep schedule. Remember Bonnie? Remember her story. Ladies, learn from her story. Set that sleep schedule. I can't overestimate the secret power of sleep. Keep added sugars to 25 grams a day max. That means anything that has a label that has sugar, you want to maintain 25 grams or less of added sugars a day. So that juice you might drink, how many calories or how many grams of fat does that have in it? That protein, that healthy protein bar, how many grams of sugar does that have in it? Look at the serving size, look at the sugar, and think, I've got 25 free grams of sugar to use a day. How do I want to use it? If you don't use any, bravo. Okay. And one of the quickest ways to do this is not drink your calories. Okay. And then last but not least, number 4, or sorry, I got my numbers mixed up. There are 5 things here. The 5th thing I'm going to recommend is to increase your protein. I'll talk about that. Aim for 1 gram of lean protein per pound of body weight a day. So if you weigh 150 pounds, divide that by the number of times you eat. If you're eating 3 meals a day, divided by 150, what is that? That's a lot of protein. Yes, it's more than you think, and it does more miracles than you know. 1 gram per pound of body weight a day is your goal, ladies, for protein intake. If you're only eating 3 meals a day, look for areas where you can increase that protein. Maybe you wake up and have, a scoop and a half protein first thing in the morning. Maybe you have 1 last thing at night to bring those protein levels up where they should be in this stage of perimenopause. Okay. So 5 really big takeaways. So I'm going to move on and talk about some other things like insulin, more about food, but I did just want to let you know that if you want more hormone balance in your life, okay, then reach out. There's a number of solutions and things that you can be doing, whether it's guided and supported or on your own, to really start to achieve that hormone balance and use the tools that work instead of continually doing the things that don't. If you keep trying to find things that work, but you never, ever stick to something long-term that is a natural lifestyle change, you may find yourself back to where you started from, but with more belly fat gain, with more hormone imbalance, because you cannot outsmart your hormones by crash dieting, by restricting calories, by over cardioing. Okay. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It won't go away overnight. Okay. I'm not your quick fix girl. I am the realistic. I give you the truth. I cut through the BS and I help you if you're willing to commit to what it takes. Okay. So coming in April, some things to help you start your journey or continue your journey. Just an FYI, we've got a 21-day walking and nutrition challenge coming in April. Stay tuned for that. And there's also going to be Made to Move. We're going to focus a little more on the physical aspect of fitness and all about exercise a little more in May. So that is coming. Made to Move is our theme in May. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to spend a little more time talking. I'm going to stop sharing this here. Talking a little more about things like insulin resistance and the like. So I'm just going to use my notes here, guys, because I do have a bunch of stuff I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget any of it. And I still don't know whether we're streaming live into the group, but I think that we are. I'm hoping. Let me have a check here. So if you need a sip of water, or if you need to head and grab a quick pee break, if you're listening or watching, please feel free to do that, guys. I'm going to start chatting a little bit about insulin resistance because I think this is a big area. And then we're probably going to talk about a little bit about protein, a little bit more about leptin and ghrelin, those two hormones I talked about in the beginning, and insulin. And I'll do my best to get through this as quickly as I can. All right. So insulin resistance, I mentioned it previously. We don't want to be insulin resistant, okay? Often resistance is good, but in this case, not so much. We want to be insulin sensitive because we want insulin to do its job. So insulin resistance can be a contributor, a big one, to weight gain. If your insulin receptors have become less sensitive to insulin, you can have higher levels of blood sugar and lower energy, and also increase risk for diabetes and cardiovascular problems. Basically, increased risk for communicable disease. Okay. Chronic stress and abdominal fat encourage insulin resistance. This is another big reason why I encourage you strongly to check your stress levels and implement strategies in your life to reduce dump stress and have more downtime for yourself. The good news is that we can do something about insulin resistance. Okay. It's not a sentence. Strength training. Number one, strength training. And I posted yesterday in our Fit Over 40 group about this. And I actually shared this in a mom's group post as well. Someone was looking to reduce belly fat. My number one thing is you've got to look at hormones. You've got to look at hormones, what's happening. And are you getting your muscles, your bones under load? Because metabolic tissue, muscle tissue is very active. Okay. Strength training to build muscle, boost your metabolism. And it makes those insulin receptors more sensitive, which will help you to lose weight. Okay. So it's not just about, getting the pump. It is about creating more resistance more sensitivity, making those insulin receptors more sensitive to help you turn fat burning on. Okay. So do you ever notice how men tend to lose weight more easily than women? It's likely because they have more lean muscle mass. I'm just going to grab a sip. A little dry from talking so much. Okay. So I spoke in the beginning. I led with sleep. So we can sleep our way to weight loss. Okay. So let me ask you this. Leave a comment. I'd like to know, how much sleep are you getting at night? Okay. How much sleep? Now, how much sleep are you getting at night? And how much of that sleep feels really restful? Are you dreaming? Are you getting REM sleep? Do you wake feeling rested and ready to go? Or do you wake feeling tired no matter how long you sleep? Okay. Is perimenopause robbing you of sleep by causing night sweats, making you wake up at odd hours of the night? Or is your system too wired at bedtime to get into sleep mode because you've been scrolling, you've been stimulated? Okay. Are you simply not getting to bed early enough to get the necessary amount of sleep that you need physically, emotionally, mentally, physiologically, hormonally? A chronic sleep deficit, whatever the cause can promote weight gain. This is because the effects that sleep has on two major hormones that regulate appetite. So I'm circling back to that presentation at the beginning of today's webinar. When you get enough sleep, your body releases leptin, a hormone that controls appetite. When you don't get enough sleep, a bigger release of ghrelin, a hormone, that literally makes you crave junk food, starts to happen. Okay. So sleep has the effects on leptin and ghrelin. Getting enough sleep releases more leptin, makes you control your uptake, makes you feel full, okay? Not getting enough sleep means we have more ghrelin. That is the hormone that literally makes you feel more hungry, makes you crave all the carbs and all the junk food. So you might feel like you just have lousy discipline when in fact, it could be your body chemistry that is making it that much more difficult to eat healthy and to know when to stop. If you don't have that sensor, that hormone saying, hey, I'm full, you're full, time to stop, you just keep eating, looking for that sense of satisfaction, wanting that sense of fullness. Does that make sense? Can anyone relate to this? Okay. It's another reason why many women that I get to support, okay, or that I've worked with through the years, they have a lot of extra weight. Many of the women I've helped have been quite overweight at one point or are overweight. It's not because they can't control their eating. It might be because they never get the symbol or the sign that they're hungry. So they're not even eating, okay? So never judge a book by its cover, number one. But number two, be aware of what lack of sleep and all these other things can do to some of those regulating hormones on hunger and satiety, okay? So, and it's not always just about not having self-discipline. Okay, so that's kind of an old wives' tale that we can kind of kick to the curb right now because that is not always the case. So let me just make this bold statement. Crash diets don't work. If anyone still believes crash diets work and that it will last forever and you will not be back where you are looking for another solution, raise your hand. You've probably noticed that they don't work, okay? The weight just comes right back again. We need a better solution. Okay, the problem in perimenopause is that weight loss is more complex than calories in and calories out. It's not that simple, my friends. Remember how I said hormones run the show, okay? So it doesn't mean you can't change your metabolism and lose unwanted weight, okay, or lose some unwanted pounds. But when your hormones are out of balance in perimenopause, balancing them and optimizing your overall health through lifestyle changes are virtually vital requirements for losing the unwanted weight and belly fat, okay? So I'm going to say that again. When your hormones are out of balance in perimenopause, balancing your hormones and optimizing your overall health are virtual and vital requirements for losing the unwanted weight and the belly fat. So a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle, and maybe some very specific to you, high quality nutritional supplements can help get you there. As a general rule, women in perimenopause need more protein, and usually more fiber, and pairing them together is even better. Again, I'm going to just review. Aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight a day. Divide that over the number of times you eat a day. And maybe that might mean supplementing with protein shakes, different than a meal replacement shake. Those can be very heavy on added stuff, heavy in added calories. We just want the protein. You can get unflavored, unsweetened protein. There's whey protein, pea protein. So there's hemp protein. There are so many different types of proteins out there. Find the one that works for your belly. It doesn't need to be fancy. It needs to have the essential building blocks of protein, okay? All of the amino acids. You can get it flavored with stevia or not. All right, so just because the fat hasn't budged lately doesn't mean it won't when you try a different approach. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Just because the belly fat has not budged lately does not mean it won't once you try a different approach and stick with it long enough to let that approach germinate and grow and flourish and become a lifestyle habit, okay? Now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. I wanted to mention that those who suffer from anxiety and depression generally show to have higher amounts of cortisol, okay? Higher loads of stress. So if you or someone you know that is struggling with this is suffering from either of these mental health issues, I would really recommend to make sure that they or you are seeking support, particularly to help support all the other physical aspects that may be coming from that in terms of the extra amounts of cortisol. Okay. So that's just a tip, a little bit of an aha that maybe you hadn't thought of or hadn't, kind of put together, but very clear evidence there as well for that. So something to keep in mind. There are some proven strategies that you can use to lower your stress, your anxiety, and your depression, though, of course, okay, aside from going and having someone professionally work with you and support you and talk with you. Okay. And I'll share some of those. So number one, eating healthier foods can play a really big role in that, a big role in the health of your brain. And earlier I mentioned the gut health, and this is tied in part and parcel. The health of your gut is tied in with the health of your brain and vice versa. So if your gut is literally a mess, it's virtually devoid of the good flora and fauna, the good gut bacteria. Maybe you've got SIBO or it's overwhelmed with the bad bacteria. Okay. You got a lot of gas, a lot of constipation, maybe a lot of bloat, really digestion issues and difficulties. You want to look at the gut health, look at the connection between that and brain health. Quite often too, once we can restore gut health, once we can naturally balance hormones, use natural food, lifestyle changes to do so, our mental health can improve. Okay. Because our gut and brain talk to each other all the time. They are connected. This is irrefutable fact, ladies. It is not a fairy tale. It is no longer, it could possibly be. It is absolutely, without a doubt, researched and continues to be. The gut-brain axis is huge. Our gut health is literally the key to everything, okay? So constantly eating bad food can wreak havoc on your mental biochemistry, promoting anxiety and depression. Does it always? No. Is that the cause of everything? No. But cutting out the junk like processed foods, sugars, artificial sweeteners, big one, refined carbs, excess alcohol, and the unhealthy vegetable oils are things that you can do that will help. Okay, so again, constantly eating those unhealthy foods wreaks havoc on the blood or on your mental biochemistry. Okay, gut health as well, promoting anxiety, promotes depression. Cut out the junk, cut out the processed foods, the extra sugars. Remember, 25 grams a day of added sugars or less. Cut out all the artificial sweeteners. End game, all. Refined carbs, excess alcohol, and the unhealthy vegetable oils, okay? Working out and exercising has been proven again and again to improve your mood. Exercise and other physical activity done daily is the smartest way to lower your stress, anxiety, and depression. And you remember a couple minutes ago, I talked about the very real reason that strength training is so important, not just for bone mass and everything, but it helps make your insulin receptors more sensitive to insulin to do their job better. So the more muscle you have, the better the insulin does its job. It helps turn that resistance to more sensitivity. Okay. Also, just be sure that you're not overtraining. Okay. It can lead to more cortisol in the body. Don't be like my client, Karen, who I mentioned early on from years ago, who was in the gym 5-6 days a week on the treadmill, 30 minutes to 60 minutes a day. Her cortisol levels were so elevated. It was a contributing factor to why she was gaining weight and not losing it. Okay. So a good idea here to remind you that it's a great idea if any of this stuff is resonating, if the hormone imbalances, if the belly fat and the what used to work is no longer working, you want to stay away from intense exercise, mid to late day, evening included, obviously, since that can also temporarily boost cortisol levels. I mean, at the wrong time, that's not what we want. Okay. We want it to come up in the morning, do its natural thing, and then gradually decline through the day. So what is the motto for women in perimenopause? If you are one of my clients or if you've listened to any of these Wednesday webinars, you know the answer to this. The motto is restore before more. Sounds like a big movie, a movie trailer, but I'll try it. At no time in history has the necessary need for sleep and rest been more crucial for women than in perimenopause. Okay. It's not just a fancy movie trailer. It is real life, more so even than in our 70s. This perimenopause time is when the rest is even more important, okay? So be aware that if you want to build the muscle, give yourself the rest and the recovery to build the muscle. Do the hard work. Don't spend an hour doing it. Short, sweet, intense, earlier in the day. Rest, rest, rest. Do it again. If you're not sure, reach out. This is what I help people do day in and day out. So let's talk cortisol a little more. Having excess cortisol in your body can promote belly bloating as well, okay? It's all tied in. This extra weight, this water weight will make your stress belly appear bigger than it really is. How many people once a month feel this, right? And it can hide the results you're getting, which can lead to frustration. So you could be getting the results. You could be eating all the good foods. You could be doing the right workouts. You could be restoring before more, but you still have high levels of stress, of cortisol that are contributing to some bloat. So you're not really seeing what's happening under the surface there, okay? Don't be upset. Try not to let that send you off the rails and get you off track. I want you to know, okay? Don't try to drastically cut calories and start dieting and restrict your eating. That'll lead to higher cortisol as well. All right. Don't be frustrated. It's easier said than done, but staying away from stressful situations, including berating yourself about not seeing that result, is key. It's not always practical, but it goes a long way to lowering your stress and the belly fat. So one of the biggest takeaways here is we're needing to look at ways to not let stress run the show. We need to dump stress. We need to find ways of doing things to support our health and reduce cortisol, create more insulin sensitivity, okay? Improve our mental health and mental well-being, and